What's the creepiest display of intelligence you've seen by another human? 1. I knew a guy who worked retail and could memorize customer credit card numbers. He used them to buy pornography. 2. I knew a lady who counted pills in a pharmacy basically her entire life. One time she looked at a container of ibuprofen that was supposed to have 100 pills in it and said it looked off. She recounted, and it had 99 pills in it, one less. My mind was blown. 3. In med school, I was tangentially friends with a guy who had never shown up at uni. Skipped all lectures and called in sick for all lab and tutorial sessions. The night before second year finals he was around my house and said he had spent the last week watching every lecture at 2x speed. Dude placed top 10 out of 300 students in every exam. And mind you, it wasn't just he remembered everything. Still, he had a functional, lateral applicable knowledge of everything we had to know, much better than most people who actually showed up. I always shuddered to think that if he applied himself he would be a monster of a man, but dude was content to just chill. 4. I had to learn collegiate level German in the military, a 9-month class. We started off with 15 people and graduated with 6. It was really hard and I barely made it through. The top kid in my class was a basic white kid from Indiana, who had already tested out with top scores in Spanish and Portuguese in a matter of weeks. He not only knew those languages perfectly fluently, he could switch dialects fluently between places like the DR and Spain, or Brazil and Portugal. His story was the schools were scheduled for a specific length of time, with a report date already set that was kind of far out, so the Defense Language Institute kept throwing languages at him. He figured that out and started taking his time in class, but halfway through German he turned in a science fiction book that he had written to our teachers, entirely in German language. Then they put him in Arabic, then Farsi, each 1.5-year long school on their own. So in the 9 months I was there to learn how to read, write, and speak German, which already had an expected high failure rate, he did the same for Spanish, Portuguese, German, Arabic, and Farsi, including different dialects, accents, and wrote a couple books. Before he came he said he knew some Spanish from working construction after high school and liked the idea of becoming a linguist, but had never tried actually learning before. Besides languages, he seemed extremely normal, but no one knew he was writing books. We already had like 4 hours of homework every night. It was insane. We were friends, and I asked him his method. He said his favorite way to learn was to take songs he knew in English and then translate them into the new language. The trick was he wouldn't translate it word for word, he would learn about the people and say the lyrics how they would say it. How he figured that out I have no idea. 5. Not creepy, but my high school algebra teacher apparently had the textbook memorized. We were doing work in class by ourselves and struggling with a problem. What page and what problem number? He asked. He then proceeded to write the problem out on the board without referencing the book. Blew our high school minds away. 6. I knew a guy who could remember everything he ever read, but that's not the creepy part. The creepy part was how he wouldn't tell you. So he didn't like telling people because it becomes a game for people. What is the 5th word of the 2nd paragraph on page 93 for this book? So anyway, anyone knew, he just wouldn't tell them up until they pissed him off. Then it was like a court drama. On January 16, 2007 you said that John and Jane were seen flirting at the coffee shop and, quote, oh my god, John is cheating on Mary with Jane again. Look through past messages and sure as poop the message would say that. 7. I worked with someone briefly when I worked for the police. He came to my team to get frontline experience for promotion. He'd been in a secretive investigation unit before coming to us. I'll call him Dave. We went into this area with loads of gang violence and we were enforcing a Section 60 stop for weapons after a nasty murder in the area. We stopped 2 men at the side of the street and it was immediately obvious they had nothing to do with any of it. We chatted for a bit and that was it, or so I thought. Dave, being incredibly polite and friendly, said to one of the men, I think I know you. The man said that he didn't. He'd never been in trouble with the police, never been arrested, never got in any bother whatsoever. He was in his 30s, this fella. Dave said, I do know you. Let me have a look at you. The man was good-natured about it even though I was feeling bloody awkward. I've never been in any trouble, said the man. Dave looked at him and said, I believe you haven't. Your dad did, though. He calls the man by his name, date of birth, old address, mum's name and date of birth, and dad's details too. Dave says that 22 years previously, he'd attended at the bloke's house when he was a preteen because his parents were arguing and his dad was intoxicated. His dad was arrested for a minor sleep-it-off breach of the peace. He wasn't a regular criminal or anything like that. Dave had not only recognized the guy, but he'd done it from when he was a child, aged him, and remembered every bloody detail for a minor thing over 20 years previous. No wonder he was in the high-end investigation units. Genius. 8. I knew a 14-year-old who was helping his dad drywall a home. The kid looked at the shape of a staircase, looked at the drywall on the horses ready to cut, looked back at the staircase, and then cut the drywall without a single measurement or marking. The drywall fit the staircase so perfectly that it slid into place like it was snuggling the stairs. Not a single measurement. 9. Just the first time I witnessed someone with a special interest in real life. Was a school assistant and had been asked to walk around outside the school with a specific 13-year-old kid who needed a 10-minute stress relief break. Anyway, we are walking and a plane goes by overhead pretty low to the ground. In a super casual tone of voice, that kid starts telling me the heading of the plane, which airport it came from based on how low it was, and its probable flight number and destination. 10. A friend once showed me his guidebook on how to handle his girlfriend. He'd taken notes on her likes and dislikes, what he'd given her and precisely how she responded, which actions caused which responses in her, what phrases he could quote at her to yield particular responses, etc., and then sort of used the information he'd collected to write a little guide to expected outcomes of various things he does so that he could diffuse her if she got mad at him. If she felt unloved, he had strategies for fixing the situation so he could go back to doing whatever he liked while she got off his back. If X, then Y will likely do Z unless P. It was somewhere between oddly sweet and creepily manipulative.